Good evening. Welcome to our Sunday evening webinar where we're going to be talking about metabolic health issues. I'm going to share my screen and we will hit the road. Welcome if you're joining us from anywhere in the United States. Welcome, and we're glad to have you. And hopefully, the information we present today will be insightful. Okay. All right. Okay. My name is Dr. Dieter. I'm a board certified internist and a board certified pediatrician. And today I'm going to be talking to us about how the chronic medical conditions that we face today as a result of metabolic dysfunction. Metabolic dysfunction just simply means energy deficiency, energy shortage. And this energy shortage drives all the chronic issues that we have. And that energy shortage in itself is coming from two things: insulin resistance and microbiome dysfunction, what we call dysbiosis. So there are two components, two things that result in an energy shortage, and that energy shortage drives all the common day diseases that we face today. So what I want to do is to take both two things, isolate them, and talk about how insulin resistance, number one, results in energy shortage and how microbiome dysfunction results in energy shortage. The premise of this talk is that all the chronic diseases in modern society come from energy shortages. So let's start by talking about insulin resistance. To be able to understand what insulin resistance is important to understand what insulin is in the first place. Insulin is a hormone produced by the pancreas, and insulin is a very important hormone. In fact, I call insulin the most important hormone. It is hormone numero uno. I consider insulin so important. It is what I call the CEO of the body. Insulin dictates our existence. It dictates the normal functioning of the body. Without insulin, humans do not exist. Insulin makes everything flow. So the job of insulin is to do this, and that's why I call it the CEO. When you understand what insulin's job is, then you can understand what insulin resistance is. Insulin's job is to mobilize glucose out of the blood. You see, when we eat, glucose is released into the blood as an end product of digestion, absorption. So, a job of insulin is to mobilize glucose out of the blood into the cell. This is the cell, and to mobilize that glucose into the cell. When glucose gets into the cell, glucose is then shunted through the mitochondria, and goes through a complex series of reactions in the mitochondria called the electron transport chain. The result of that is the production of an energy molecule called ATP. So ATP is energy. So why is insulin the most important hormone in our survival? Because without insulin, we cannot make energy. Insulin is required to make energy by the mobilization of glucose into the cell. So, what then is insulin resistance? Insulin resistance is when there is a breakdown in this energy production process. Anything that causes a breakdown, we say you have insulin resistance, where this process, this screen, something happens that energy is not produced. That's insulin resistance, a breakdown in that part. And when you have insulin resistance, it's going to cause you to have a slew of diseases: high blood pressure, heart disease. This slide is not exhaustive. It's a slide that is giving us a depiction of energy shortage diseases that come as a result of insulin resistance. There are many diseases that are not on this slide that are linked to insulin resistance, but the point here is that the energy shortage insulin resistance causes results in a lot of diseases. Now, I want us to go back to this slide and try to understand how this occurs. We know that insulin resistance is a breakdown in the process of insulin mobilizing glucose into the cell so that energy can be produced. How does the breakdown occur? It's important to understand. If my car breaks down and I take it to the mechanic, the first thing the mechanic is going to do is to try to understand how did your car break down, what happened, and then can work backwards in fixing it. So insulin resistance, the breakdown of insulin resistance occurs two ways. The first one we call, let me do something different here. The first way in which we develop insulin resistance is by what I call chronic or too much fat, okay? Too much fat. And then that results in the second step in which we develop insulin resistance, what we call too much insulin. These two things cause insulin resistance. Now let's pick up too much fat first. And how does too much fat cause insulin resistance? You've heard of it said that too much of a good thing is a bad thing. Well, fat and insulin are going to demonstrate that to you and how they lead to insulin resistance. Any excess calories that we eat, the body needs a certain quota of calories to use as fuel. Anything that is in excess to the body's needs, the body converts that into fat. When the body converts that excess into fat, it doesn't know where to put it. It goes and puts it in the cell. So normally a cell is supposed to look like this. When you consume more calories than you normally should, and those excess calories are converted into fat, the body takes that fat now and comes and lumps it in this cell. I'm drawing a replica of this cell and lumps the fat in this cell. And this cell now becomes what I call fat laden. Now, the job of insulin, as you will remember, is when there is glucose in the blood, insulin is going to mobilize that glucose out of the blood into the cell. You now have this cell that is filled with fat. When insulin comes and knocks on the door of this cell, knock, 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 I have glucose in the blood. I want you to take it up. Now, what the cell tells insulin, I'm sorry, I have no room in the inn. Like, where do you expect me to put insulin, put glucose? I am stuffed and filled with fat. And so the cell refuses to open its doors to glucose. Glucose cannot get into the cell to make ATP. You have a breakdown because you have too much fat in the cell. So that's how too much fat results in insulin resistance. Now, this cell is trying to protect itself. It's acting like somebody on Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is coming up. It's one of those holidays that people are at risk of overeating. If you've ever overeaten on Thanksgiving and you feel stuffed, the last thing in the world is putting a bite of any other thing into your mouth. Even if that bite of any other thing is your most favorite grandma's pecan pie, you feel so stuffed, you don't want it. And glucose is a favorite food for the cell. The cell needs glucose to be able to make energy. So every time the cell has the opportunity for glucose, it wants to take up glucose. So but this cell is acting so full. It's like, I'm so stuffed, even though glucose is my favorite thing. The last thing in the world that I'm thinking about is to put in another bite of glucose into my mouth, just like that person was full on Thanksgiving. So that's why the cell refuses to open its doors, because it's stuffed with fat. Now, what happens is that glucose accumulates in the blood because the cell cannot take up glucose. That glucose that accumulates in the blood is a trigger for insulin. There is a one-to-one relationship between glucose concentration and insulin production. When glucose concentration is high, insulin concentration is high. Glucose concentration is low, insulin concentration is low. A linear relationship, you may say. So what happens is that when the concentration of glucose in the blood goes high, it triggers the pancreas to produce too much insulin, one-to-one relationship, to produce too much insulin to match the glucose production. Now, too much insulin is no bueno. Too much insulin is like a CEO of a company that comes to the work one day and has gone crazy, has gone off. He's backing unreasonable orders here and there. He's firing people for no good reason. He's yelling at people, slamming people here and there, saying, you're going to do it my way or the highway. Remember, I described insulin as the CEO of the body. it maintains the smooth functioning of the body. If a CEO that is that important in maintaining the smooth functioning of an organization, all of a sudden he goes off the rails, what's going to happen is that the employees of that CEO will lose respect for their boss. When they lose the respect for their boss, it's hard for the boss to influence them to do what they're supposed to do. So if I have a boss and my boss, I've lost respect for him because all of a sudden he's become a bully, tyrannical, and what have you. If that boss comes to me and tells me, "Hey, Dr. Dieter, we got this project that needs to get done in 30 days. Can you get it done?" Because I've lost my respect for the boss, the first thing when I hear I'm gonna hear that project, I'm gonna grumble, because I don't want to do anything for somebody that I don't respect. The second thing I may do, I may be forced to do it because I don't want to lose my job. I have to provide for the kids and what have you. But if I'm an A game person, I always bring my best, my A game to things because I've lost my respect for my boss. When he tells me I don't want to lose my job, instead of bringing my A game to that project, I may bring him my C game, get the project done over the line, but not get it done well. So translate to the cell. When insulin is running high and rampant, insulin is acting like a bully, a tyrant to the cell, shuffling the cell left and right, yelling in the ear of the cell. The cell loses its respect for that kind of tone. It's like that kind of tone with insulin. I don't know that I can work with it. It loses respect for insulin. And when it loses its respect for insulin, the number one thing that insulin usually tells the cell to do, the cell doesn't want to do it now because it's at lost respect for it, which is what, "Hey, cell, open your doors to let glucose in." But when insulin says that, the cell just says, to heck with you, saying that the cell insect closes its doors, keeps its doors, tighter, so that less insulin will come in because it has lost, less glucose will come in because it has lost respect for insulin. When the cell does that, what happens? Closing its doors, more glucose accumulates in the blood. When more glucose accumulates in the blood, it is a trigger for the pancreas to produce even more insulin, even more insulin. And that even more insulin is like a boss who was crazy to this level and raises their craziness level right above the head. So if you had a boss like that you had already lost your respect for, and the boss becomes even more of a jerk, you're going to lose even more of your respect for the boss. Translate to the cell. The cell loses even more respect for the high tone of insulin, the even higher tone of insulin. And the cell closes, is less likely to do what insulin does, even more, insulin asks it to do even more now. The cell closes its doors even more. If the door of the cell is normally supposed to be like that, when insulin bullied it, it closed the door like this. When insulin bullied it even more, it closed the door even more like this. So less glucose comes in, and you have a continuous accumulation of glucose in the blood. So that just it sets into motion a vicious process where glucose is rising, linear relationship causing insulin to rise and over again. You're going to see how this process plays into reversing, how understanding of this process, plays into how we reverse insulin resistance. So that's how you develop insulin resistance by, oh, I'm sorry. But that's how you develop insulin resistance by too much fat or too much insulin or too much fat or too much fat or too much insulin. Now that you understand that, let's talk about the second part, dysbiosis. What is dysbiosis? I'm going to, before I explain what dysbiosis is, which is the same thing as microbiome dysfunction, I want to explain to us what the microbiome is. The microbiome is a population of about 30 to 100 trillion bacteria, 30 to 100 trillion bacteria that live in our gut, our large intestine. They perform several functions, help to digest fiber. help to protect the gut from pathogenic bacteria. Pathogenic just simply means disease-causing bacteria. And the way they do that, they produce a postbiotic called short-chain fatty acids. Short-chain fatty acids are like the security guards of the colon. They go and maintain the strength of the colon, so that things do not leak out of the colon. So those short-chain fatty acids help to protect. You see, the way the cells of the colon are, the cells of the colon are linked together. Let's put this. Look at my knuckles. The cells of the colon are linked together like this. Knuckle, and this knuckle is one cell, this knuckle is another cell. They link together like that to form the wall of the colon, okay? Those short chain fatty acids, these short chain fatty acids go to the junction around the knuckle and keep that junction tight, so that stuff doesn't leak out. Without those short chain fatty acids, instead of the knuckle looking like this, the knuckle may look like this. If the knuckle looks like that, instead, stuff can leak from the colon into the blood, which is no bueno. So that's what that does. Then the immune system also helps to regulate and train. The microbiome also helps these organisms help to regulate and train the immune system. You may not know it, but um, 70% of the body's immune system resides in the gut. The other 30% resides in the lymph nodes, the bone marrow, the lymphatics. 70%. So the microbiome trains the immune system how to react. And when the microbiome is healthy, it gives the immune system a healthy training. When the microbiome is unhealthy, it gives the immune system an unhealthy training. Healthy training to the microbiome looks like this. Hey, immune system, when you see this bacteria, he's a bad guy, but you could probably kill him just with a simple David sling stone. You don't even need a handgun for him. So just use a stone, you take him out. The immune system is trained not to overreact. Sees the other bacteria, say, hey, immune system, this bacteria, um, he needs to go. He's a bad guy. But you need to take him out with a shotgun. You don't need a stone. A stone will not take him out. Maybe a shotgun. And you don't need an AK-47. That would be an overkill. If you just use a simple handgun, you could take him out. Hey, so that's the healthy training it gives the immune system. When the microbiome is unhealthy, it trains the immune system to be hyper reactive, very hyper reactive, to have a finger on the trigger, to overkill. So it could look like this. Hey, immune system, when you see that bacteria, you could probably take that bacteria out with a stone, David sling and a stone. But why use a stone when you got a handgun? Let's use some metal, give me some smoke. Let's use a handgun instead. So overkill, what it could use to kill with a stone, it's telling him use a bullet. Or sees another bacteria and says, this guy is a bad guy, but he could probably be taken out with a simple handgun. But what the heck? He needs to die anyway, so who cares how he dies? Let's take him out with an AK-47. Whereas just a simple one bullet, an overkill. The immune system is hyper reactive. The other thing that it trains the immune system to do, which I did not mention in a healthy immune system, a healthy immune system is also trained to recognize the cells of the body as not the enemy. So when the immune system is healthy, it will tell when the microbiome is healthy, it will tell the immune system, you see that bacteria right there, that guy right there, he's in camo. He looks like a bad guy, but he's not a bad guy. He's in camouflage. Don't take him out. He's part of the body cells. When the immune system is unhealthy, it tells when the microbiome is unhealthy, it tells the immune system, you see that bacteria right there, that bacteria right there, you see that guy right there. I don't know whether it's a bacteria or not. It looks like it may be a bacteria. It looks like he may be in camouflage, and you know what? Whether it's a bacteria or is in camouflage, let's just blow his head off. We're gonna figure out whether he's in camouflage or bacteria later. So it trains the immune system to shoot first and ask questions later. So somebody who is in camouflage, who is part of the body, who is not really an enemy, the immune system blows his head off. And that's how autoimmune diseases come about, because the immune system has been trained to have a trigger happy finger, to shoot first and ask questions later. Unhealthy microbiome will cause an unhealthy training to the immune system. And then it helps in the synthesis of vitamins, vitamin B and vitamin K. Now, what then is microbiome dysfunction? Microbiome dysfunction is what we call dysbiosis. It's when there is an imbalance in the bacterial population. You see, the bacteria in the gut, the good and bad bacteria, live in 50-50% population. 50% good, 50% bad. Okay. When we say you have dysbiosis, the bad bacteria have grown and the good bacteria have decreased in numbers. So it's lopsided now. And the number one reason for that to happen is a shortage of food. I mentioned that the food for the microbiome is fiber. When you have a shortage of fiber, which we do in our modern Western diet because we consume a lot of processed foods, you don't have enough food for the microbiome. When there's no enough food for the microbiome, what happens is that the little food that is there causes survival of the fittest to set in. So there is shortage of food. Survival of the fittest sets in. The strong bacteria, that are the bad bacteria, decide that, okay, we're gonna hoard this little food that we have, and to be able to keep our hold on that food, let's go ahead and increase our army to keep our hold on that food. And so the bad bacteria rise, the good bacteria decrease, and that's how you have microbiome dysfunction. You see, the microbiome, this 30 to 100 trillion bacteria that live in our gut, they're supposed to live with us in a symbiotic relationship. You do for me, I do for them, like a quick quo. You're supposed to do all these functions. We're supposed to provide them food and shelter. Now, when we're not able to provide them food and shelter, you have dysbiosis. And when you have dysbiosis, this is what happens. Diseases like this come up. You see lupus on here is an autoimmune disease. The microbiome has a trigger happy finger. Hashimoto's, an autoimmune disease. The microbiome has a trigger happy finger, killing people that are in camouflage, whereas these are people who are not the enemies, attacking the body cells. Multiple sclerosis, MS. What did I do here? Multiple sclerosis. Can you guys see my screen still?
Yes.
You could?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Multiple sclerosis, autoimmune disease, the same thing. Now, there's some diseases on here that you may be surprised to see. Colon cancer linked to that, heart disease linked to that, type 2 diabetes linked to that. Anxiety and depression may surprise a lot of you guys, but if you understand if you understand the physiology of anxiety and depression, may not surprise you more, it may not surprise you as much after understanding that, there is a hormone, or some people call it a neurotransmitter, serotonin. The neurotransmitter serotonin that helps to maintain mood and makes you not to be depressed or anxious. 90% of it is produced in the gut. 90%. Okay. The other 10% is produced in the central nervous system. So if serotonin is important in maintaining mood, and 90% of it is produced in the gut. When the gut is unhealthy, it means that the factory is not working. The factory that produces serotonin. If the factory that produces serotonin is not working, the production of serotonin is down, of course, you're going to have anxiety and depression. So a lot of people walking around with anxiety and depression have a sick gut coming from just that. Now, this slide is not the end all be all of dysbiosis, microbiome dysfunction. There are many other diseases linked to dysbiosis that are not on here. We just cannot put all of them on a single slide. This other slide is a slide I call the metabolic sequence of disease. It's coming from these two things, insulin resistance and gut dysbiosis, resulting in metabolic dysfunction. Remember, they defined metabolic dysfunction as simply energy shortage, okay? That energy shortage now leads to injury to the cell. The cell becomes injured right here, and an injured cell causes a cry to the immune system to deploy an inflammatory response. The immune system comes to this cell, but when it comes to this cell and sees that the cell is crying, it's looking for a problem to solve, but it doesn't see the problem. All it sees is smoke, okay? Whereas the real problem here is this fire that started in this house 2 houses ago, had insulin resistance and dysbiosis, spread to metabolic dysfunction, spread to injury to the cell, which led to the inflammation. So it cannot put out a fire that is not seen. So, but this problem continues. The root of the problem is not solved. So this continues to go on. So the cell continues to cry out to the immune system: inflammation, 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 chronic inflammatory state, because of this core problem that is not taken. It now leads to diseases and symptoms. The good news is now there's now reputable science, more and more science every day, telling us that these diseases can be reversible. If I give you a time machine and I ask you to go back 100 years back, and look at your great grandparents, you're going to come back and report to me and say, "Hey, Dr. Dieter, these guys did not have diabetes. These guys did not have high blood pressure. These guys did not have, sleep apnea and all the like." We now have more and more science saying that the reason they did not have this stuff is because they did not have the insulin resistance and the dysbiosis. And in that same breath, there is now science that if you reverse the insulin resistance and reverse the dysbiosis, those diseases will go away. And I like using this analogy. If you're driving or you're driving on the road with a car and your car runs out of gas, that car is gonna stop. The car stops not because there's an intrinsic failure of the engine. No, it stops because its power source is gone. The energy that is needed to power the engine is gone. If you walk to the nearest gas station, you buy a gallon of gas, you walk back to your car on the road, and you put gas in that car. When you put gas in that car, you're not apprehensive or worried, or the thought is not even crossing your mind that, oh, what if this car doesn't start? Never. I've run out of gas a couple of times. I've never feared that, oh, when I put gas back in, this car will not start. That car starts again when you put gas back in it. It's the same as the body. When the body runs out of energy, metabolic dysfunction, as a result of insulin resistant dysbiosis and insulin resistance, if you're able to restore that energy, the body is going to start functioning again. A simple definition for a disease: it's a cell that has malfunctioned. Cells make tissues, tissues make organs, organs make systems. So the smallest entity of the body is a cell. A simple definition of disease is a malfunctioning cell. The number one reason why a cell malfunctions is a lack of energy. When you restore the energy it needs to function, the disease goes away. It is very profound, very simple, but very profound. And so I present to you guys a solution, a nutraceutical product called the Feel Great System, made up of two things: a product called the Unimate and another product called Balance. What is a nutraceutical? Let's talk about that. And these two products are called nutraceuticals. A nutraceutical is a product that is made 100% from a plant, and in addition to nutritional benefits, it has more health benefits than it has nutritional benefits. So it's called a nutraceutical. It's in it has no medication in it. It's not a pharmaceutical derived from plants, but packs a punch in terms of health benefits more than it packs a punch in terms of nutritional benefit. That's what it is. These two products help to reverse insulin resistance and reverse dysbiosis, which are at the root of the modern day diseases. How do they do that? Let's start with the Unimate. The Unimate is made from a plant that is native to South America called the yerba mate plant. The yerba mate plant is rich in a very special phytonutrient called chlorogenic acid. Chlorogenic acid is a polyphenol. Chlorogenic acid. So this polyphenol has a very important function. It helps to go. It helps in the breakdown of fat, lipolysis, and that's one way in which it can reverse insulin resistance. So let's see how this comes and affects this portion here, reversing insulin resistance. I want to explain that. I have, and both of these products come in the sachet. I have the Unamate sachet here. It just comes in a sachet. You empty the sachet, which is powder, into a bottle of water. So when you take this sachet, it contains the chlorogenic acid, which promotes fat burning. Okay, Unamate contains chlorogenic acid, which causes lipolysis, fat burning. It causes you to burn fat burning. So if you will recall the way we developed insulin resistance, you developed insulin resistance because you had this cell that had became fat laden because of chronic overnutrition. Now, you now have a nutraceutical product that has as a component promoting or enhancing lipolysis, fat burning, this chlorogenic acid. So when you consume the Unamate, right? What happens after consumption of the Unamate, it comes to this cell, and decides to burn the fat in this cell, lipolysis, burning fat. That's what the chlorogenic acid does. So it causes this cell to now transform to looking like this. This cell may have less fat in it. And then over time, as lipolysis continues with the Unamate promoting that, this cell now returns to status quo where it has no fat in it. This cell and this cell, this cell and this cell, both the same, now have more space in them to be able to take up glucose, more space in them. So the glucose that had accumulated in the blood, initially when you had this situation, now this cell and this cell are now free to take it up. So all this glucose now enters the cell, or this cell enters the cell and results in ATP production. You have reversed insulin resistance because the cell is now free of its fat. Now, because the first step in insulin resistance resulted in the second step of insulin resistance, which was too much insulin, a linear relationship between glucose concentration and insulin production. When insulin was high, it caused the cell to produce it caused the pancreas to produce too much insulin, which was acting like the crazy CEO. Now that the cell is free and all this glucose gets into the cell, the concentration of glucose in the blood drops. When the concentration of glucose in the blood drops, a text message is sent to the pancreas. Hey, you need to decrease the amount of insulin that you're producing. So the pancreas now goes to a low amount of insulin. When insulin now becomes low, it's now likened to the CEO of the company who was initially crazy that his employees lost their respect for. He now goes back to the employees one day and say, "Hey guys, I'm very sorry. I have been a jerk for the last 2 to 3 months. Please, will you forgive me?" When the boss says that to his employees, the employees are taken aback by the humility. And when the employees are taken aback by the humility, they forgive the boss. When they now forgive the boss, they're now more amenable, now more open to doing what the boss says because they have now gained their respect back for the boss. You translate to the cell. When insulin now becomes low, it's like insulin goes to the cell and is humble, just like a bully on the playground that had been bullying children goes to the playground and says, "Hey kids, I'm sorry I've been bullying you guys and doing this. I am really sorry," with a contrite heart. "Please forgive me." Kids are very forgiving. The kid is gonna forgive that bully like that with a contrite, who comes with a contrite heart and say, "Okay, you know what? We could be playmates now." It's the same thing in the cell. The cell now hears the humble tone of low insulin and said, "I can work with you." The cell now opens its doors more, instead of closing its doors tight, opening its door to receive more glucose into the cell, improving insulin sensitivity, reversing insulin resistance. That's what Unamate does by promoting lipolysis. The other product in this nutraceutical is this product called Balance. Balance, guys, is just simply fiber. It's fiber made from several different plants that have been merged together in a special polysaccharide has been merged together in a special polysaccharide matrix. We don't consume enough fiber. And fiber does exactly the same thing to reverse insulin resistance as Unamate. Exactly the same thing. Causes lipolysis, frees up glucose, causes glucose to get into the cell. Exactly the same slide. But the other thing that fiber does is that fiber decreases your glycemic index. Causes your blood sugars not to spike. And why does fiber do that? Is because fiber slows the transit of food through the colon. If food is supposed to move through the colon by this speed, fiber causes food to move through the colon by this speed. The slow transit of food through the colon results in slow absorption. Slow absorption results in slow release of glucose in the blood. The fast transit of food through the colon, which happens without fiber, results in fast absorption, fast release of glucose into the blood. And I put it this way. If let's say you and I went to an Italian restaurant to eat lasagna, okay, and you order your plate of lasagna, I order my plate of lasagna. We both pay $45 for a plate of lasagna. Okay. Now you don't know about fiber. You don't know anything, you don't know what you don't know. And you consume your plate of lasagna without consuming any fiber. Your blood sugar is going to do this. And that blood sugar may be a spike of 180. For me, I've heard about this nutraceutical product and I know that it contains a high amount of fiber and I know the metabolic science behind fiber that is going to slow down food transit and slow glucose absorption and result in a lower glucose. So I consume the fiber product, the balance. This is the balance. I take mine before I eat the same plate of lasagna. So after taking my balance, which has fiber, and eating the same plate of lasagna, same quantity that you ate, my blood sugar is going to do this. And that blood sugar there may be a blood sugar of 90. So you and I have eaten exactly the same plate of lasagna, same quantity. The only thing I did different is that I preloaded my plate of lasagna with balance, which has a lot of fiber, and you didn't. And that did that. Now, this is the consequence of your sugar being 180, mine being 90. Your pancreas is going to have to produce a commensurate higher amount of insulin to deal with that blood sugar 180. So for you, your pancreas is going to produce 20 units of insulin. Okay. For me, my pancreas is going to produce a commensurate lower amount of insulin to deal with that glucose of 90. My pancreas will only produce 5 units here. I want you to think about 20 units of insulin as the CEO that had gone cuckoo. The employees do not respect that CEO. Translate to the cell doesn't respect insulin when insulin is so high tone. I want you to think of 5 units of insulin as a humble CEO. A humble CEO, the employees respect, are more amenable to doing what the CEO says. The cell is more likely to do what insulin says. And that is huge. So this profile here, your profile here is a profile of insulin resistance. My profile is a profile of insulin sensitivity. So that's what fiber does. And the last thing that fiber does is that fiber helps to reverse dysbiosis. Fiber is food to the microbiome. Every living organism needs food. And remember, we said dysbiosis happens when you have a lack of fiber. So when you consume enough fiber, there is enough food for the good and the bad bacteria. There is no reason for the good and bad bacteria to go to war for survival of the fetus. And you restore gut balance, you reverse dysbiosis. So those two things help to do that. Now, unfortunately, we do not consume enough fiber. The average man and woman is supposed to consume the average man and woman should consume, man, 38 grams of fiber a day. A woman should consume at least 25 grams of fiber a day in the US. It's said by the NIH, data by the NIH is that men and women are consuming an average of 10 to 12 grams of fiber a day. So if fiber is so important in insulin resistance and dysbiosis, you could understand why, we have diseases that are rampant as a result of the lack of fiber. I'm going to end by saying this nutraceutical gives us the ability to be able to reverse our modern day disease. You see, food is medicine. And the company that came up with this product, Unicity, they asked a smart question, a question that more and more scientists are now saying, answering. Why were our ancestors not sick, and why are we sick? And they postulated and answered their own question that it had to do with the food. And after answering their question, said, what if we could find the right ingredients, the right phytonutrients that secured the health of our ancestors and introduce those phytonutrients to our modern day society in a very simple way, that they can just have available so that they could experience the same nutrients that kept our ancestors healthy. And that's how these products were born. And it has been game changing. And so I will end by saying if you have any chronic medical condition that is as a result of metabolic dysfunction stemming from dysbiosis or insulin resistance, you can reclaim your health again. The Feel Great system gives you the opportunity to do that. Thank you. I'll end now, and then I'm going to to turn over the my mic to Dr. Tiffany to take it from there and just moderate. Thank you.
Great. Great, great, great. Well, that was an awesome presentation. And I know some of you have heard his presentation, but it still hits different each time. It's something a little bit more you learn. So if you have, definitely put that in the comments. But I appreciate you. I am a double board certified physician myself in family and lifestyle medicine. And I've been taking care of people with all these conditions for 20 years. And my last 3 years, I actually took care of them over the computer. Virtual primary care. So 48 states. So I got to see just how sick we are. So I love that we have this place to be able to show, something that is outside of the pharmaceutical base, something we can help people with to reclaim their health. So let's go look at some testimonials. And so I have some before and afters that I'm going to share. And I'm pulling them up now. And so one thing I do love about when you decide to take your health back, it doesn't really matter when you start. So many people are like, I'm too old to make these changes. I'm stuck in my ways. A lot of times that is it. I'm stuck in my ways. These products help break that. And so I love that. Now, and so here's my friend, 78 years young, and was able to get his A1C down from 10 to 7 in 90 days. Ro here. So her A1C machine didn't read higher than 14. So hers literally said greater than 14. So she didn't really know how bad it was. And it was able to get down to 5.9. And I'm pretty sure she's lower than that. Another lady in healthcare that understands how important it is to get our health back. But she decided, no, I'm not doing those pharmaceuticals. I'm going to do this nutraceutical. And then my friend here, Catherine, so pretty much she started doing the products, help with her blood pressure, so much so she was able to get off of 2 of her medications. And so I know you all don't necessarily know me specifically, but my hashtag, my goal is to help people need less meds. So I find this particularly exciting. And then our host, I love this picture because I have so many people that say, well, why can't I just do intermittent fasting? Well, what's great is we get to see the evolution. The evolution when he started doing intermittent fasting, Dr. Dieter here in the middle. And so we see, yes, he had some great results. But after he got on these products, our results look different. So it's boosting what we can do naturally on our own. Of course, lifestyle change, we push that, right? But there's people who can't make these changes on their own. There's people that need some help. And besides that, these products boost what we're able to do. And you see things like triglycerides, because when insulin's high, it makes your liver make more triglycerides. So triglycerides tend to be high when you're dealing with insulin resistance. Even Shannon, a dietitian, somebody who was always working out, that's what was high for her triglycerides. But in this particular example, this person, they came down to 86. We want them under 150. And Anne-Marie, who I'm slipping in her stead, she was able to go from a size 6 to a size 2 in 90 days. And so for people who are looking to lose weight, that's great. That's not what always happens, but that's the best thing you see in pictures. Jazz here, a truck driver. That is so hard trying to find some healthy options when you're on the road and you have a family, right? And so he was able to use these products and looks like a new man. We see things like prediabetes, cholesterol, triglycerides, neuropathy, and even acid reflux getting better. And when you have something even like acne, something that's a skin disorder, but it's inflammatory. And just like Dr. Dieter said, inflammation comes right along with insulin resistance. And so look at this, face clearing up. Who wouldn't want that? And yes, Michelle is a great story and actually has some good weight loss benefits. Same thing with Danielle, a busy professional woman, an engineer trying to find time to get in her exercise, make these choices. And after 5 months, she was able to get back into that dress she liked to wear. Losing 100 pounds, of course, that's something we want to show, right? But the big picture here is that she was able to get her A1C to 4.5, and that was the first time she's had it that low in 20 years and off of all medications. Yeah, and I have so many of these. Here's some more back acne, right? Oh, and I love this. I love Cody because this is just 6 months of him using the products. And what you don't see is you don't see a bunch of hanging skin. There's something about that fasting, eating up the fat in those skin cells that actually make him look like this, like they just shrunk in like a shrink bag. And Dean, I actually did a good video on Dean, how he was able to come off his diabetes medications, which he'd been on for 20 years, his cholesterol, his blood pressure, just by using these products. And so I'm going to skip on down to a couple of them because, like I said, I could be doing this forever. Diabetic for 23 years, after 7 months, off our meds, and what? She's 73. So there is no age limit on this. And even we have young people. I mean, when you have a child, so let's be real, if you have a 9 or 10-year-old, and now the shots have been approved for them, if you are considering giving them the shots, this is most certainly a much better option. We're just dealing with an herb and fiber, stuff they need to be eating anyway. So I love Jackie's story. 104 actually reversed her pre-diabetes, but she's still keeping that weight down. That 104 pounds, when we see her, when we hang out with Miss Jackie, she is still looking just as good. And here we have, we have this here with Tanya. She was able to, one, she lost weight, right? But she was carrying around an oxygen tank. That's what she had to do for 24/7 for 17 years. And she does not have to do that. That's the quality of life stuff we talk about. And so before, yeah, I wanted to pick up this picture because I love Keith's picture, and this is to cue you up to get ready to start talking, Keith. But I'm gonna let him go into that. But the one thing, oh, I guess I could show myself, huh? I guess I could. I thought I was cute.
I love it.
I thought I was cute in both of these pictures. But see this one on the left, this is cortisol. This is stress. Stress and insulin resistance. So trying to tackle them both because you can is what makes a difference. Same thing with Dr. Esther here. Love this. Even the same dress. So I think a lot of people look at doctors and think we just have easy lives. No, we be stressed out of our minds sometimes with our patients and our family, and it takes a toll on us and our physical health. So I love seeing us taking back control of that. And then skin tags. I like this picture because so many people think skin tags don't have anything to do with insulin resistance. It does. It 100% does. So this was my friend who pretty much, Beverly, who swore she was the healthiest person we knew. And she took pictures because she wanted to prove us wrong. She took them on May 2nd and said, oh, shoot, come June 24th, I'm seeing less of them. So there is something to this. They are not making this stuff up. And Crystal and Jonathan Scott. I like Jonathan Scott because he actually lost 50 pounds, 52 pounds in 50 days with psoriasis, another condition people don't realize is linked to insulin resistance, but you can do a Google search and see that. He was able to clear up his psoriasis. So I think my next picture, yeah, that's my next picture. So I'm gonna let you come on here, Keith. I'll let you come on out. It's always fun to just shock him a little bit, just shock.
Yeah, just wakes them up a little bit. So yeah, I was diabetic for 25 years. On insulin 95% of that time. Struggled with my A1C. It was stuck at about 7 for seems like forever. And constantly increasing my insulin use to where by the time I was able to fix it, which I'll get into in a second, I was on 108 units a day. And I was plagued with after that. November, I went to my niece's wedding down here in Florida. And when I got back, they found a foot wound. I was plagued with wound heals that weren't healing, all kinds of different issues. And the picture that Dr. Tiffany will show you here in a second is the first picture in that series is where it was in December of towards a little bit after Christmas. And I literally went in the hospital the first week in January and passed away because of that injury due to sepsis. You could take a glove on, stick your finger in that hole, and touch the bone. And after 5 months of trying to heal it and surgeries, the second picture is where I was at after hyperbaric chamber. I spent easily over $180,000, and that's where I kind of got stuck. Well, my grandson was born on June 3rd of this year. And I had pictures. I had such bad inflammation I couldn't even hardly bend my knees. And so fast forward, I started the protocol on the 12th of June, and by the end of July, that's the third picture.
Wow.
That's where my foot had healed to, and my blood pressure had come down, my cholesterol was back in order. Skin tags were falling off. I think I've got one left that's barely hanging on. Um, and I had them removed multiple times with different surgeries, and they just kept coming back. And so when I started taking the protocol, or since I'd started taking it, in the first day, I noticed my energy level just shot through the roof. And then on day number two, I was able to get off. As many diabetics know, you're checking your blood sugar 3 and 4 times a day. I was able to get off my insulin on day number two. I was off 108 units, never looked back. And I still check my blood sugar religiously just because that's what I do. And I was healing in record condition. My eyesight has returned or is restoring. And I was at the point where I was getting injections in both eyes every other month because of the bleeding. The backs of my eyes, if any of you have ever seen the picture of the back of your eye, mine were like jagged rock faces, and now they are smooth as glass. My eye doctor hasn't seen my eyes look this good in over 4 years. My foot doctor is amazed. He says I look like a walking billboard. I'm down 65 pounds, over 10 in, oh, almost 11 inches on my waist now. I'm building muscle. I've, I, from what I keep getting told, I'm 54, by the way. There's a few people that when I met them, they thought I was in my 60s. Now I'm being told I could pass for 40, which I feel it. I mean, I literally feel that good. And the protocol is just so super simple. I mean, when I wake up in the morning, I mix a tea and I sip on it. Company gives you a bottle, tells you exactly where to fill the water levels for both, and then I just sip on it all morning. When it gets to be lunchtime, if I'm hungry, I eat something. If not, or even if I do eat, right after that, I mix up my second tea. I sip on it until dinner time. And then when I have my biggest carb heavy meal, I mix the fiber up. And that's really all the protocol is. Now, in saying that, there are some things that will factor into that. One of them being proper food order, which here's what I do, and it works for me. Everybody, is a little bit different. When I start my meal off, I start with a big leafy. I start with my fiber first, and then I go to a big leafy salad. I coat it in olive oil, good healthy fats. Be careful of your salad dressings. They love to load them up with fructose corn syrup, and it just makes you eat more. And then after that, I eat my veggies. Then I go on to my protein, my meats. Usually I eat steak or eggs or both. And then by the time I get to the end, if I want carbs, I still love carbs. But when I get to the end, I just don't eat nearly as much. Um, And if I eat pizza, I might take 2 fibers just to satiate a little more. So pizza's my kryptonite, and I will eat pizza all day long, and it's one of the worst things for you. But yeah, and then after dinner, if I feel a little craving come on, I might mix up a third tea just to carry me through the night, and I'll set it right on the nightstand next to me when I go to bed. And if I wake up in the middle of the night and feel something, I just take a little sip and then go right back to bed. So, I mean, it's really that simple. There's no crazy workouts. There's no crazy dieting. It's this will is a game changer.
Yes, yes. Well, you know what you say, no crazy dieting, but what happens is when we drink this, it turns off the carb noise, it turns off the food noise. So yeah, you love pizza, but I know you're not eating it the same way like you used to. You know, you're
Correct.
Yeah.
not eating the same amounts. And it's not because you had to think about it and cut yourself off. That's what I like about it. Because anytime you tell somebody don't do something, what they want to do, what you told them not to do. So
Exactly.
this takes that away from you and you're able to make these healthy changes. So yeah, I love that, Keith. Awesome, awesome story. Awesome, awesome.
Yeah. There was a question in the chat um about talking about how it helps to reverse helps with rheumatoid and arthritis, and it all has to do with inflammation. It all has to do with inflammation. If you remember the slide I showed in the presentation, talking about um, the slide that I showed, that I said that slide was the metabolic sequence of inflammation. It has to do with inflammation. So insulin resistance, when you're insulin resistant, it drives us high insulin triggers your immune system to become hyperreactive. That hyperreactiveness of your immune system, the inflammation, is like a chronic fire causing chronic arthritis and pain, being driven by insulin resistance. Okay. Now, then the other thing is that the leaky gut issue here, the dysbiosis. When you have dysbiosis, what dysbiosis does is dysbiosis goes and cause your gut to be weak. When your gut is weak, um, um, some very special particles they call lipopolysaccharides, they can leak out of your gut into your blood. Those particles, LPS, cause a trigger to the immune system to cause the immune system to be inflamed even more. And that immune system that is inflamed now drives the arthritis, now drives the rheumatoid. Remember, rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disease. Autoimmune diseases come from the immune system attacking the body cells. So when what is causing the problem is the fire of insulin resistance and dysbiosis going to go trigger the immune system, to be just chronically putting out inflammation. When you now turn off the insulin resistance and the dysbiosis, the chronic inflammation which has caused the arthritis and which has caused the rheumatoid arthritis too, that now goes away. So that's how this simply, just by addressing the core of the problem, causes the arthritis to go poof, the rheumatoid to go poof. Dysbiosis, insulin resistance, metabolic sequence of inflammation.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, there was another question real quick before I'm gonna get Dr. Festus to tell us about his results. He has such a great story. They were asking about the grams of fiber in the balance. And
Yeah.
so I want to say that's about 6.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I answered it. It has.
Did you?
Yeah, I answered it in the text to the yeah. It says it has 4 grams of fiber in it. Okay. But this is the thing. Um, it is prepared in a very special polysaccharide matrix, a
Yeah.
7 times polysaccharide matrix. That 7 times polysaccharide matrix, when you end up mixing the fiber in the water, the chemical reaction that takes place that causes it to thicken like that changes it into an equivalent of 28 grams of fiber.
Mm-hmm. Nope, that was right. I saw that you put that in. I was trying to get Dr. Festus down here.
Um,
Hey, Dr. Festus.
yes, yes. No, honestly, I'm always very excited with Dr. Dita. You know, Dr. Dita to me is like a miracle doctor who showed me the right way. I feel like he's changed my life when he introduced to me the Feel Great system. You know, about 12 years ago, I was diagnosed with sleep apnea, obstructive sleep apnea. So when you sleep at night, it seems like your oxygen drop and then you're not getting enough oxygen in your system. So when I was diagnosed with that, I used to be very difficult for me to sleep. I actually was on a CPAP machine for 6 months. That CPAP machine was so depressing. Like, I had to wear that every time at night before I sleep. It was extremely depressing for me. Finally, I found this oral appliance that is given by a dentist. It's like $2,000 to get that. And the oral appliance has been what I've been wearing all this while. Now, if I didn't wear the oral appliance, I would sleep briefly because I was fatigued and I'll wake up very soon and I would snore throughout my sleeping. My legs will be shaking, as Yvette usually tell me, and I'll shake when I wake up. It's so difficult for me to go back to sleep. Number one, my arms will be numb all over my body will be numbed, and I'll be extremely tired. And so it always made it difficult for me to sleep, to really sleep well. And also, when I wake up during the day, I'm always sleepy throughout the day. So, but when I wore the Aura appliance, it made it possible. For the past 4 to 5 months, actually, on the Few Grade system, I can say that I have been sleeping without the Aura appliance. I can say that, and I have not snored even once. I sleep like a baby, and I wake up and I'm energized all through the day. That's like a miracle to me. There is no single pill. I'm a pharmacist. There's no single pill that you will take that will cure sleep apnea. You know, just thinking about this, I have so many people have impacted their life also by as I continue to share this. I have somebody that came and told me they've been taking like the levothyroxine for thyroid all through. Now they don't need to take it. You know, I am a pharmacist. I see people come to the pharmacy, pick up so
Mm-hmm.
many medications. Sometimes people will pick up medications as if you're going to Walmart and buying stuff from Walmart. And then they'll be taking a cocktail of medications every morning, about 20 medications. And I look at it and I said, what a broken system. This can be fixed by Feel Great system. You end up not even needing to take the maximum you might end up taking those medications might not be even up to 4. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so I am really moved by this. I continue to talk about it. I cannot stop talking about it. And I'm not one of those people who wants to talk, but Feel Great system has made me say it loud and loud and loud. Thank you.
You know what I love about the whole sleep apnea thing? Because I think we downplay that. But if you have a spouse that has sleep apnea, that's enough to wreck a marriage. Okay. We like our sleep. And then we're worried about you the whole time. So having something that can actually help that is huge. And at some points has saved some marriages, right? But you know what? There is not a cure for no pill was going to cure diabetes. No pill is going to cure high blood pressure. No pill is going to cure hypothyroidism. You're dead on with that. But we actually have a natural system that is reversing the root cause. And I mean, that makes me excited. So yes, so happy you shared all that, Dr. Festus. So happy, so happy.
Oh, yeah, thank you, thank you.
We still have time for questions. If somebody has any more questions, you have two doctors that love what we do to be able to answer as much as we can. Oh my goodness, Keith, 15 minutes and off all of them now. Love that. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Oh, that's a great
Excellent.
question. Mhm.
Great question. The
Yeah.
simple answer to that is no. That's a
Mhm.
simple answer to that. No. You can still have you can still have as good of a benefit just keeping your normal lifestyle. As a simple answer to that. Many of us who are on it, what has happened, our diet may have changed not because we intentionally wanted to change it. Like for me, my diet changed in the sense that I removed a lot of carbs from my diet. I removed a lot of carbs from my diet because the food noise for wanting to eat carbs was gone. That's really what changed in my diet. Other than that, I don't cook any different or what have you. So you could really maintain exactly the same diet and still have, as good of a benefit to this as like before. So that's the beauty of that. But Dr. Tiffany, do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I like to liken it this way. You either run like a snail or you run like a cheetah. So, yes, you can take these products and get these great results. But if you are making some healthier choices, some whole food choices, and you're eating maybe more high fiber and you're avoiding carbohydrates on purpose, yeah, you're going to move a little faster. That would make sense, right? But the great thing is, just like Dr. Dieter said, you don't have to make those when you aren't ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I love this. Okay.
Wonderful.
Yes, yes. I always love the testimonials, the texts, the calls. Did you get that when you were practicing? How many times did you get some happy results for people? I mean, I can write them on my hand. I got some
No, no, no.
more complaints than I got some great results.
Yeah.
Complaints she was in here not long enough for.
Yeah.
My goodness, I'm loving this.
Yeah.
Okay. And you
Just
see
by
that? Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, Marie, just by taking them every day. Keith, who is on here, Keith was a diabetic. Keith, we shared his story about the wound. Keith has no diabetes anymore. And there are many people like Keith who have done the same. Keith, you were diabetic for how long? 25 years?
Yeah, 25 years. And before I started the protocol, my A1C had always hovered around 7, sometimes a little higher. And within 3 months of being on the protocol, my A1C dropped to 5.6.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Awesome.
so Marie, it's just simple. It's just by taking it every day, and I tell people food is medicine. Our ancestors did not have diabetes because our ancestors did not eat the foods that we ate. They ate foods that had special phytonutrients. So this company answered the question, what were those nutrients that they ate that are missing in modern day society because our foods are so processed? And so just by taking in this, which has the same nutrients that our ancestors ate hundreds of years ago when diabetes did not exist, taking two of this Unimate a day and one fiber, if you want two, just by doing this every day in a space of, some people get rid of their diabetes in 1 month, some people 3 months. It just depends on where you are in your metabolic profile, but just by taking this, it goes and reverses the insulin resistance. I don't know when you came into the talk. You may have come in late or what have you, but I really talked about that in detail, how we develop insulin resistance and how insulin resistance is the core to all these diseases. And if you reverse the insulin resistance, then the diabetes goes poof, the blood pressure goes poof, the obesity goes poof. So it's just by going to the root cause of the problem to reverse it, just by taking it every day.
How can I get them?
Right. With whoever invited you to the call, they have a link that allows you to get a discount.
Okay, thank you.
welcome.
You're welcome. Oh, what do you tell for your night shifters, Dr. Dieter?
So that's a very good question. Initially, I used to tell my night shifters, if you're working in the night, yeah, you just eat in the night. Let your meal be let your 2 meals a day be dinner and breakfast, and don't eat lunch. I used to tell, but I learned something recently that made me change that. You are more insulin sensitive, when you follow your circadian rhythm than, so it's better for you it's better for you um, to eat when the sun is up, to fast when the sun is down. So when I learned that, I've changed my advice to people who are on night shift. I say, even if you're on night shift, if you want your body's circadian rhythm to be in balance with nature, because the way our biologies are, God designed our biologies that at nighttime the switch changes to resting, to fasting, to insulin, to balancing insulin sensitivity. So you don't want food to come in. So when you start eating at night, even if you're a night shifter, your body is supposed to be resting at that time. Even though you're working, you're trying to force it to take in calories. It confuses your body and causes a desynchronization of your metabolism. So it's better, even for those who work at night, that you should not eat at night. You should, after a particular period of time, your fasting starts. So my advice will still be, for right now, for people who work at night, do not eat breakfast, eat lunch and dinner. After dinner at cutoff time, you don't want to be eating. Your body is meant to be at that time resting, repairing, restoring insulin sensitivity, bringing in nutrients at that time desynchronizes your metabolism, causes you to be more insulin resistant. There are studies that show that if I ate a plate of food in the morning time and I ate that same plate of food at night time, I'll be more insulin resistant to that same plate of food at night time than if I ate it in the daytime.
Yep, I 100% agree with that. Oh, and the breastfeeding question. There's an actual limit of about 300 milligrams. So great thing is with each packet, the average is 80 to 120. So you can most certainly, unless you talk to your provider, and that's something you decide is not something you need to do. But as far as being under the limit, you're under the limit with the amount of caffeine in the Unimate, even with doing 2 packets as the protocol actually calls for.
Okay, let's address the question of Lynch syndrome. I want to make sure that I understand what you're saying. When you talk about Lynch syndrome, I think about a genetic condition that increases your risk of having colon cancer. Is that what you're talking about? Because it's spelled the way you spelled it is not really how it's, so it makes me, I just want to clarify. Is that what you're talking about? The person who asked the question about Lynch, okay, yeah. So what I would say to this is, Lynch syndrome being that genetic condition, it causes generations of people in the family to be at increased risk of having colon cancer. Now, there is not much we can do to change your genetics if you inherited a gene that increases your predisposition to cancer genetically. But what I will say is that, as I put in my slide, there are things that there are metabolic issues that will increase that risk even more. So for somebody like you who already has the genetic predisposition to having Lynch syndrome, you want to make sure that everything which is preventable, you're able to do. And the two preventable things that you can do in spite of having that genetic condition, is to make sure that you're addressing insulin resistance and dysbiosis. So those two preventable things should be what you focus on. Your genes are your genes. There's nothing you can do about that. That gene just increases your predisposition that you may have colon cancer. But it is even more likely that that can happen when you have insulin resistance and dysbiosis. So my advice to you is focus on what you have control over. You can't change your genes, but focus on insulin resistance and dysbiosis. And you want to make sure that you're living a life in such a way that you don't have insulin resistance, you don't have dysbiosis, because then that goes now and works in synergy with that already genetic condition and increases your risk. So if you have any signs of insulin resistance or dysbiosis, I will say you should get on this product. And even if you do not, my advice to you will be, beginning today, get on this to keep those chances at zero
Yeah.
of getting insulin resistance or dysbiosis. That will bring down the risk that it could now add to your genetic risk so that cancer occurs.
Yeah. Prevention. Prevention is the key for pretty much cancers, period. So yes, I agree. I think that's awesome. Okay. Hey, Vicky. Well, okay, so carpal tunnel, you're dealing with inflammation. That's really the big issue. You're dealing with inflammation. So since inflammation is insulin resistance, twin buddy in regards to what happens here. Yeah. In fact, we have had people that have improvement of their carpal tunnel. So yes, that is definitely something I have seen improve. Man, you gotta love these calls. I love them. I love them. I love all the questions. I do. Well,
If you guys have no more questions and you were new to our webinar today, and you heard information that you want to take action for yourself or for a family member, get with who invited you and they can help you to be able to get the product. The other thing we'll say, we are on a mission to help as many people reclaim their health. So if you heard this and you're like, man, I wish my brother who had diabetes was on this call today, or I wish my sister who has gout, or I wish my uncle who has sleep apnea could have heard this, we have a chance for them to hear this again. We do these calls every Sunday, Monday, and Friday at the same time. So the next call is tomorrow at the same time. So we use the same webinar link every time. So the same link that you use to join us today, you can share that link with them to say, hey, come listen to the science tomorrow, and they will be able to benefit from the same information that you're benefiting from. So we invite you to invite friends and family members and other people who you think may benefit from being privy to this information. Because our goal, my goal, Dr. Tiffany's goal, and the many of us who are on this mission, our goal is to help as many people reclaim their health. And we don't talk about this much on our science calls, but there is another part of this where we're trying to get more and more people to join our team, to be able to tell people that this exists. So we're always looking for partners who are going to be able to educate people, or partners who are going to be able to join in our voice to say, hey, you don't need to walk to be resigned to the fact that you be diabetic for the rest of your life. This is the
Yes.
solution. So we're always looking for people who feel that this is something worth taking on as a mission, to join our team, to become a partner in telling as many other people. So if you listen to this and you're like, this sounds good, this mission Dr. Dita and Dr. Tiffany on, and I would like to become part of this mission to spread the word too, and to let as many people know about this product. And please get with whoever invited you, because we would like
Yes.
to have you on our team. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Your voice is needed, not just our voices as doctors. Keith, we need everybody's voice. So yes, love it, love it, love it.
Okay. All right. Thank you all and good night. And if you need a recording to this call, get with who invited you. The recording is going to be available through them. Dr. Tiffany, thank you. Dr. Festus, thank you. Keith,
Yes,
thank
thank you.
you. And to all of our invitees and audience, thank you guys for being here. Look forward to seeing you guys again on the next call. Thank you. Good
Good
night.
night.